Well, here's a live look at the White House this hour. What was initially a critical deadline for the Middle East war has now been, it appears, averted, with the U.S. President Donald Trump announcing on social media a last-minute ceasefire. He says the attacks on Iran will now pause for 2 weeks on the condition that the Strait of Hormuz reopens immediately. Iran's Supreme National Security Council says it has accepted a 2-week ceasefire in the war. Earlier today, Prime Minister Mark Carney responded to the threats from the U.S. directed to Iran. His comments came before Trump announced that he would suspend his military campaign, a move that Carney was urging for.
Canada expects all parties in this conflict, in any conflict, to respect international laws, the rules of engagement, and that means not targeting certainly civilians or civilian infrastructure. And we urge all parties in this war to follow those responsibilities.
Well, a question we will be asking throughout this program is what to make of this ceasefire, and especially from a Canadian perspective. What should we in this country be watching for? Well, our next guest was Canada's senior diplomatic official in Iran from 2009 to 2012. Dennis Horak joins us now. And Dennis, drawing on your experience dealing with Iran, what do you make of what appears to be a 2-week ceasefire?
It's always complicated dealing with the Iranians. From what I've seen on their acceptance of the ceasefire, they seem to have put a caveat in there about coordinating with the Iranian authorities and technical issues, and which is very typical about the way they negotiate. I presume the Americans will accept that, although it does seem to suggest that Iran retains control of the strait. So it may be problematic, but that's how dealing with Iran negotiations tend to go.
Okay, so it's fantastic having somebody with your deep experience in dealing with Iran on the program. So you've got the complications of the Iranian regime. You have the complications of the American leadership, Donald Trump and Pete Hegseth, et cetera, an approach to, I don't even know if we call it diplomacy, international relations that maybe is a little different than what we've seen from other presidents and secretaries of defense or war. And then you have Pakistan. And for those of us who don't know a lot about Pakistan's likely role, why are they brokering this deal and what do they have to offer?
It was unusual, actually. I was very surprised. The normal mediator in this situation is Oman. They were involved in mediating previous negotiations between the U.S. and Iran and have been for decades, really. It was a little surprising. I mean, they were involved in the last ones, and perhaps the Iranians felt that the Omanis were no longer a useful conduit. Also, the Omanis, their territory was hit by Iranian missiles, so perhaps they felt that they were somehow involved in this war in a way they hadn't been in the past. Pakistan is not involved directly in this, and perhaps that's why they stepped into the breach. Turkey and Egypt also tried at certain points, but Pakistan seems to have taken the lead here, which is a bit unusual.
We're getting lots of coverage, of course, in Canada of U.S. politics. Help us better understand what's happening in Iran here. You have a country which has been hit by military strikes from Israel and the United States. They seem to have been relentless military strikes. You have a country that was facing a threat in half an hour from now of an entire civilization being destroyed. What's left of Iran? How much power does the regime have? And just kind of help us understand that a little bit.
Well, from the regime's perspective, they're doing well. I think they believe they have the upper hand, and the Straits of Hormuz is a card that they have taken. We were never sure whether they'd be able to control it the way they have. They've now demonstrated that they can. That gives them a level of leverage that they really haven't had for a while. So I think they're feeling pretty good about that. Yes, they've been pounded and they've been beaten down, and militarily they've been crushed. Their leadership has been, various levels have been wiped out, but they're surviving. And for them, that's victory. And for them, that's strength. And the fact that now you've got the American president sort of offering them another 2 weeks in exchange for at least a conditional opening of the Strait of Hormuz, it seems, I think they're feeling that they're in a relatively strong position going forward into these negotiations. Surprisingly, it doesn't make a lot of sense, but that's the reality. That's the regime's objective. It's an existential crisis from the very beginning, and they're surviving it. For them, that's victory.
If this ceasefire were to hold, Iran will declare victory. Donald Trump will declare victory. What about Israel?
It's a bigger question. I don't really know, and I think it does indicate that the Americans are in the driver's seat on this one. I don't think there's any doubt about that. It depends what sort of conditions that future ceasefires put on the Israelis. The Iranians have been talking about wanting to have the war in Lebanon brought in under this umbrella. I think it would be very difficult for the Israelis to accept that, given the challenges posed by Hezbollah. So that's going to be a bit of a complicating factor if Iran insists on that.
Well, our television audience seeing the super under the screen there with the various places you served as ambassador to, and also former Canadian head of mission to Iran between 2009 and 2012. Dennis Horak, thank you very much.
My pleasure.